So you've got a guitar and you've been learning the basics of it, but maybe you're having trouble seeing the big picture as far as, how do all these chords go together? Or maybe you've heard some people say, hey, you need to learn some music theory, but you're thinking to yourself, man, that sounds really complicated. I don't know if I can do it. I'm Nate Savage, and in this video, I'm gonna give you 8 steps that you can go through to really start understanding the basics of music theory. And the cool thing about this is that you can either go through steps 1 through 7 really intently and get them down very well, or you can skip to number 8 and just use the PDF cheat sheet that I have for you in this lesson that lists some of the most common keys or major scales that you're gonna experience when you play the guitar. The first idea or concept that I wanna take you through is just called pitch within an octave. And let's say you have this note, so number 1, let's say you have this note, and let's say you have another note, all the way up here, that's just 1 octave higher. Same note, it's just 1 octave higher than the note that you started on. That is just the same pitch, an octave higher. That's the first thing that you need to have down. Second thing is applies directly to this too. And in our system of Western music, we divide an octave into 12 steps. So we have this note here and this note here that are the same, just an octave apart. And you divide that into 12 different tones, and it ends up looking something like this. Get this written out for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and then you end up back at an octave. So 12 notes, and then the octave. That's our entire musical system. And this repeats over and over again, upper, below or above whatever note you start on. But that's the second little concept that you need to be familiar with. So just remember that octave and then 12 notes within that octave. All right, the third point for music theory is just the idea of whole steps and half steps. And we're gonna look at this in 3 different ways. The first way is just our series of 12 notes right here. If you start on any one of these ticks, a half step would be just to the very next tick, either up or down. So that's pretty simple. On the guitar, an easy way to think about this is if you start on any fret and go up just 1 fret or down just 1 fret from where you start, that's gonna be a half step. Now, same thing here, a whole step on this little scale right here that we have, the 12 steps, is gonna be when you skip any step or any tick up or down. So if you start on this note and skip a note, that's gonna be a whole step. If you go down, or the opposite way, that's still gonna be a whole step, just in the opposite direction. On guitar, a whole step is when you skip a fret, and that can be up or down as well. Probably the best way to think about this though is on the piano, because it's super easy to see, and I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here is a piano keyboard. And let me draw on the black keys right here. And this is just easiest to see on a piano keyboard. That's why I want to show you this way. Your piano keyboard, that's 1 octave of a piano keyboard. And if you start on any note, doesn't matter if it's white or black, and go to the very next note, that is going to be a half step. Okay? If you start on any note, that same note, and skip a key, that's gonna be a whole step, and you can go backwards or forwards. So just realize that half steps and whole steps, that's the way they work on piano, guitar, or this little scale we have over here. Okay, number 4, the easiest one out of all of these probably is just the natural musical alphabet. And that's just the first 7 letters of the regular alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And these are all natural notes. That means that they don't have sharps or flats attached to them. And we'll get into that in just a second. But just realize that the natural musical alphabet is just the first 7 letters of the regular alphabet. Okay, right into number 5, and that's just the idea of sharp and flat notes. If you raise a natural note by a half step, you're gonna get a sharp. If you lower a natural note by a half step, you're gonna get a flat. And a really good example of this is just take the note A. If you raise it by a half step, you're gonna have A sharp. If you lower it by a half step, you're gonna have A flat. So you could have an A sharp right here. You raise it a half step, or A flat right there. It's a really easy way to think about that. And a sharp sign just looks like a hashtag or a tic-tac-toe sign, and then a flat sign looks like a lowercase b. Before we get into number 6, I just wanna label the notes on our 12-note chromatic scale here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna start on A, just because, first letter of the alphabet, it's an easy place to start, A. Then after that, you can have an A sharp or a B flat. And when you have a note that can be called by more than one name, that's called an enharmonic note. And that's just something you have to kind of accept and realize for now. Remember that, an enharmonic note. So after that, you have a B, And then after that, you have a C, C natural, B natural, and then C natural. Then a C sharp, or you can call that a D flat. Then you have a D natural. Then you can have a D sharp or an E flat. Then you have an E natural, then an F, then you have an F sharp or a G flat. Then you have a G, then you have a G sharp or an A flat. And that's your 12 notes, and then back to an A at the end. Now, hopefully you noticed something there, and this leads us into our 6th point called the B, C, and E, F rule. Let me write that down real quick for you. Number 6, B, C, and E, F rule. And this is probably the hardest part of music theory to understand as far as, you know, the foundational things. And the thing I mentioned to you about, hopefully you notice this, is that there are 2 natural notes without an enharmonic note in between them, or without, you know, 2 natural notes that are just 1/2 step apart from each other, and that's B and C right here, and then E and F right here. Every other 2 natural notes, like A and B, C and D, have a whole step between them, and this is where the B, C, and E, F rule comes in. The B, C, and E, F rule states that any 2 adjacent natural notes in the musical alphabet have a whole step in between them, except for B and C and E and F. Let me say that again for you because I know it's a mouthful. Any 2 adjacent natural notes in the natural musical alphabet have a whole step between them, except for B and C and E and F. And again, this is probably the toughest thing to get down, but really check this out. A and B, 2 natural notes, right? They have a whole step in between them. B and C are 2 other adjacent natural notes, but our rule says that those only have a 1/2 step in between them. C and D, 2 adjacent natural notes, have a whole step between them. Same thing for D and E. And then you have E and F here, which, you know, our rule says E and F only have a 1/2 step in between them. And the coolest thing about this is the piano. If you go back to the piano keyboard, you're gonna see 2 spots within an octave where there's only a 1/2 step, or there's no black key in between 2 of the white notes. And guess what those notes are? They're B and C and E and F. So this is a really good visual way to remember the B, C, and E, F rule. And it's super important for building major scales that we're about to get into. Okay, we're cruising along here, and if you need to stop the video or just think about, you know, 1 step at a time, that's totally fine. You can come back to this video anytime you need to. If you're feeling good about what we've gone over so far, let's go ahead and go over number 7, which is the major scale formula. All the major scale formula is a series of whole steps and 1/2 steps that's always the same, that you can use to build any major scale. And the formula is whole step, 1/2 step, whole step, 1/2 step. And let me write that out for you. So you have whole step, 1/2 step, whole step, 1/2 step. And that may seem like a lot for you. One way that I shorten this is to remember 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. And all a major scale is a series of 7 notes that follow this specific formula of whole steps and 1/2 steps. So let's go through and build a C major scale. And all you have to do to build any major scale, start on whatever note you know is the name of the scale. In this case, it's a C. And then follow your major scale formula while keeping the B, C, and E, F rule in mind. So first off, we need a whole step. 1 whole step is D, which is great, works perfectly. We need another whole step, so skip that D sharp or E flat and go to an E. Now we need a 1/2 step, which is great because from E to F is just a 1/2 step because of our B, C, and E, F rule. So that's our next note. Now we need 3 more whole steps. So go from an F, skip a note to a G. Another whole step from G to A. So we're back around kind of over here, if you will, on our little scale. We need another whole step to a B. Great. And then finally we need 1/2 step, and from B to C is a 1/2 step, so that's perfect. And the key of C major, or the C major scale, has no sharps or flats in it. That's why a lot of people start with this scale, because it's really easy to understand, but that is how it's made. I know that's a lot to think about, so let's do one more major scale or one more key. Let's do the key of G major, and this is gonna bring up a really important point. So write down your major scale formula again: whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, okay? So do the same thing, come over to a G note, and then just start plugging in your formula. So start with a G. I need a whole step to an A. So let's go back around here to this A just for ease of use. Need a whole step to a B. Now we need a half step to a C. Great, no problem. Whole step to a D. Whole step to an E. Now here is where things get tricky. This is where you have to be really aware of your B, C, and E, F rule along with your major scale formula. We're on E, but we need a whole step. That means we don't need an F, we need an F sharp. We have to force that F natural up to an F sharp because of our major scale formula that's calling for a whole step, and because E and F only have a half step in between them. So that's the tricky part. That's where your key signatures come from, your sharps and flats in whatever key you're playing in, right? So the last little bit is just another half step. So if you're on an F sharp, the next note over is just a G. So that gives us back to our tonic, our root note of G. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. That means the key signature for the key of G major turns out to be 1 sharp, and that note in there, that sharp, is an F sharp. All right, those 7 steps so far, hopefully you've been able to follow along with it. If not, just go over this video multiple times and you will start to get it, and it will become more and more clear to you. Now, step number 8 is where you can pull up your cheat sheet and just use that if you want to, or you can kind of fully understand everything we've talked about here so far and go from it, kind of attack it that way. Number 8 has to do with the idea of major and minor chords, which chords in each key are naturally major or minor. Let me just tell you, every note in a major scale has a certain type of chord that goes along with it, whether it's major, minor, or diminished. We're not gonna worry about diminished for now. We're just gonna stick with major and minor. But there is a formula that you can use with your cheat sheet just to see what chords occur naturally in any given major key. And the rule here is that major chords are based on the 1st, 4th, and 5th scale degrees of any major key. And then minor chords, actually let's do this in blue, just get a little bit of contrast in here. Minor chords, because they're sad, they're blue, right, sounding, are based on 2, 3, and 6. Let's do that 2 again, there you go. So this is one really simple way to just be able to look at a major scale or your cheat sheet and tell what chords are in that key really quickly. So let's apply this kind of 8th principle to the 2 keys or major scales that we wrote out earlier. Let's go ahead and do key of C major first. Just go 1 C, 2 D, 3 E, 4 F, 5 G, 6 A, and 7 B. So that's your C major scale numbered 1 to 7, right? Now, all you have to do is look at your major scale cheat sheet or your major key cheat sheet and look at 1, 4, and 5. They have uppercase M's next to them. Uppercase M's signify major chords, and then lowercase m's will signify minor chords. So all you have to do is plug that in. So uppercase M's here on the 1, 4, and 5, and those will be your major chords in the key of C major. Those aren't the only chords that you can use, but they're a good starting point. They're the most common ones, right? As far as the minor chords, 2, 3, and 6, right? So I'm just gonna write lowercase m's here with a little line over them to signify minor chords. And 7 is diminished, but you don't need to worry about that for now, for the context of this lesson. So at a glance, you can see what chords are in the key of C major that you're probably gonna see popping up a lot. So if you see a song going by that uses loads of C's, F majors, and G majors, then you can kind of assume that you're in the key of C major, or it's a really good hint. Let's do the same thing for the key of G major. Just go through and write out that scale. G, 2A, 3B, 4C, 5D, 6E, and 7, don't forget your sharp, F sharp. And then go through and do the same things. And this is just something that you need to memorize over time. It'll come to you the more you look at the cheat sheet and the more songs you learn. The first, 4th, and 5th chords are gonna be major. So you have a G major in a major key in G major, and then your 4 chord will be a C major, 5 chord will be a D major. And then for your 2, 3, and 6, you're gonna have minor chords. Great, so if you see a song with lots of E minor G major, B minor, and D major, for example, you can say, oh, I bet we're in the key of G major. So I know that seems like a lot of information, but really these 8 steps are the foundation or the critical parts to getting to understand music theory. So go through them as many times as you need to, and just remember, there are only 8 of these. So number 1, pitch within an octave. Number 2, the 12 tones in our system of music. Number 3, the difference between whole steps and half steps. Number 4, the natural musical alphabet. 5, the difference between sharps and flats. 6, the B, C, and E, F roll, only half step between B and C and E and F. Number 7 is going to be just the major scale formula, 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. And finally, number 8 is just how to tell which chords are major and which chords are minor in each key, 1, 4, and 5, and 2, 3, and 6. So as you continue to learn more about the guitar and as you continue to learn more songs, keep this cheat sheet with you, and it's going to help you understand how keys work more. And eventually, you're going to be able to look at a chord chart and be like, I bet the song is in the key of A major or whatever key it's in. If you have any questions at all about this music theory stuff, you can leave them in the comments below. I know this can be a super intimidating topic for a lot of people and it can be tough to get into, but you can do it. And if you need some help getting into the first stages of playing the guitar, I have a link to a free course that you can go through to learn your first song below in the description. I'll see you later.